take some questions from the press. My family's free. They're relieved from their official duty, so they're free to sit or stand. Well, I appreciate the compliment, but Senate is the right race for me. As I said in my speech, I'm very excited about taking this fight to Washington. I do think we need an independent advocate for taxpayers, for average people in Washington. Billions of our tax dollars go there. There's a strong race going on for governor. I had the pleasure of working closely with Pat Quinn. Great respect for him. I have respect for Comptroller Dan Hines, but this is the right race for me. It's going to be an expensive campaign, and I can tell you that I don't believe that I'm going to have the war chest of at least one of my opponents. I don't think that war chests are going to decide this race. I'm not naive about this. I know I need to raise money, and I will. But the history books are filled with candidates who weren't the biggest raisers or spenders and still became the elected candidates. And I think this race is ultimately going to be decided, obviously, by the voters and based on who they think has the better message and the better argument. And I do think people are hungry for not only fresh faces, but people who can turn the page on the corruption and problems of the past. I think people are ready for that. So I'm not naive about the need to raise money, and I will, but that's how I think I'm going to win this race. Well, I tell you, I think that the experience of the Reform Commission showed me that people are ready for candidates who come from outside the political establishment and candidates who are fresh faces. And look, I've got 16 years of public service under my belt. I've been a prosecutor for 7 years. I've been an inspector general for 4 years. I've clerked for judges for 2 years. I've worked in the Senate as an aide for 3 years on foreign policy and other issues. I feel that my record is strong. I feel that I'm ready. I've talked to Senator Durbin. I believe that I think as Senator Schoenberg said, there is concern among Democrats about holding the seat. And as a commentator said the other day, I believe that my candidacy represents the best chance for Democrats to hold the seat. The Republicans want to run against Blagojevich. The Republicans want to run against the corruption of the past. And as one of the commentators said, I take that issue off the table. I represent, I believe, a clear choice for voters in this primary. I am not one of the insiders. I'm not. And I have not been a player in the system. I have been challenging the system. And I think what voters want more than anything right now is someone with a record of independence who they can trust to stand up for them as opposed to standing up for special interests in the political establishment. No, and I really wasn't asking, and but he was not discouraging. Correct. Yes, correct.
Your first foray into the legislative realm, you weren't able to accomplish everything you wanted to do. How do you show the voters that you can be effective in playing at an even higher level?
Yeah. Well, I believe I can be effective. I believe that with my experience, not only in the jobs that I've held, but in putting together coalitions that granted have been outside the legislature, but in putting together coalitions of law enforcement and community, putting together coalitions of federal and local law enforcement, which, as you may know, is not easy in and of itself. Those are experiences I think that are going to serve me well. But as to the Illinois Reform Commission experience, look, we got some things accomplished and other things we got stonewalled on. And that, my guess is that that's the experience of just about every legislator, effective or not, in Washington. You're not going to win them all. But that experience, that was actually a great experience for preparing me because while we won some and lost some, the experience of drafting legislation and working closely with legislators is going to be helpful in terms of making me effective.
Are you afraid or concerned that should you get the Senate seat, you might be the only one, or at least the loudest one, calling for reform? Obviously, got a track record of making things happen. Cleaning up corruption. See others in the Senate going along with
Well, I'll tell you what, whether I'm a lonely voice or I'm a voice with others, it's important to do it. That's what the citizens of Illinois want, and I do think, as I said, I'm presenting a clear choice for them, and people of Illinois want someone who has shown independence, who has a record of standing up for them, so it's someone that they can trust to not hasn't been a player in the political system, hasn't been a player with the political establishment, someone that they can trust to serve their interests. And it's a fair point. I don't know whether I will be a lonely voice or not, but I can tell you this: I will be a powerful voice, I will be an independent voice, and I won't forget who I am and where I came from. I'm going to continue to stand for the things that I've stood for. Yes, I'm not going to take any PAC money. And let me be clear about that. I'm not going to take any PAC money. I'm not going to take any money from lobbyists, includes both federal and state registered lobbyists. I'm doing that because I think it's the right thing to do. My experience on the Reform Commission and the experience of this state shows that campaign money can create significant problems. And that, to me, are the bright lines that I'm going to draw to help make this campaign the right, I'm going to do this campaign in the right way. Well, if I didn't run, would be speculative, since I am running. I think the concern that exists is that voters of Illinois are angry and frustrated about the scandals and corruption and problems of the past. They want to turn the page on the past. Well, I'm not going to talk about the other candidates in the race. I'm going to talk about myself. But I do think that everyone's past, mine and others, and everyone's record are relevant to this. And I can tell you about me. Well, let me put it this way. I don't have any connections to the problems of the past. I don't have any connections to the politics, the insider politics, the scandals of the past. And I think that voters care about that. And if we're going to turn the page on the problems of the past, we need to pay attention to that. Well, I'm going to let the voters decide that. Can you say, I missed the very beginning of the question. Look, I think the legislature, as these legislators know well, the legislature has a role in oversight for a variety of reasons. And when legislatures, whether in Springfield or Washington, forget their role as critical pieces in oversight, we're losing something important in our government. The legislature, and that includes the United States Senate, needs to be an independent advocate for people and an independent mechanism of oversight. There are great examples in Congress in the past, whether it's William Proxmire or others, who have showed the path in terms of using oversight effectively, oversight mechanisms effectively, to represent taxpayers. And just the mere fact of the power to pass laws. The laws themselves are very important mechanisms for oversight, whether it's demanding transparency or laws that demand accountability when wrongdoers or institutions break the laws. We'll be working on that in the months to come. Yeah, well, look, I think that people are going to, I have faith that people will vote based on who they think is the best candidate in the race. As I said before, I offer voters a clear choice, regardless of race, color, creed, or where they live. I offer a choice for voters, and I think that that's going to be significant to people. You know, look, I am here to represent everyone. I am here to, as senator, represent all the constituents of the state of Illinois, including the people of this neighborhood, for whom one of their major problems is the great extent of gun violence in their communities. No, I didn't make the final decision until shortly before I announced, but that didn't really play a role in my decision. I'd been thinking about it, and then I stopped thinking about it once she decided to stay. Others? Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.